as every series goes along, like it just gets to another level of execution, another level of fitness, another level of readiness, another level of closing quarters, like everything becomes a little more heightened every series that you go through. So I think that's the biggest thing for us.
We never clicked all together as a team in this series, not even one game. I think that was the main thing. The last two series, we was all clicking at one time, making shots and stuff. We wasn't clicking at one time.
It hurts, This team's worked tremendously hard, not only improving ourselves as players, but as a team, collectively, just playing together, trusting the process through the ebbs and flows of the seasons and all the adversity. We found a way to always stick together and move forward together. So disappointed for us, we worked hard, obviously didn't get the result we wanted.
This is way tougher, because, I feel like we were right there. I felt like early in the series that we had a couple games that we let slip that could have really turned this series, and we could be looking at things a lot different right now. So it's really frustrating, but these things don't happen by chance. It's part of the journey for a lot of us, and we're meant to be here, and we have to learn from it.
Nordo, they say they never clicked in the series. This show needs to click.
Yeah.
I'm not really feeling it right now. It's raining outside.
Uh-oh.
We watched 4 quarters of brutal basketball.
We did.
Season-ending brutal basketball. It is, I don't know about you. After the big wins and the big losses, I don't sleep right.
Oh, I'm with you on that. It's kind of the adrenaline, because if you are a Rube, like I am, ultimately, I feel like we're educated Rubes, but still Rubes at heart. We just want our teams to win. That the best of times and worst of times both result in busy minds.
Yes.
While you're trying to, and then you got dogs running around your house.
Yeah,
you got
I got to say, Scraps got me up twice. He got me up at 1 and 3. And, you don't always... Some people can get up, put on the robe, go get the dog, bring the dog downstairs.
Are you a slippers guy?
No.
Okay.
That's too much work in the middle of the night.
I got you.
But I'll wear them in the winter, like around the house.
So you got Scraps.
I got Scraps. And
waking you up.
Now I'm up.
And Luka Doncic keeping you up.
In my head.
How about that?
Rent-free, as the kids say. This is the kind of show where we find out, we test the mettle of the listeners.
Yes.
If I, as somebody on the outside, would I be listening to KFAN today? Probably not, because I don't want to hear more of what I already know. I already know how bad it went, and I don't want to hear more about that.
And we can't cure that.
No, I wish I could.
In some ways, we're wallowing in it 9 to noon this morning.
I think the priority here today, Nordo, is let's just knock out this game, this segment.
Okay.
And let's focus most of the rest of the next 3 hours on the totality of the season, which is a much better storyline. And I hate it when people do this, but I think it's relevant here, and I have done it in the past as well. This line of reasoning. If I had told you at the beginning of the season the Wolves were going to get to the Western Conference Finals, would you take it?
Yes.
Almost every listener would say yes.
Indeed.
I'm trying to keep that perspective while the wounds are still fresh. We are still bleeding. We're not even 12 hours removed from the end of the game. 12 hours ago, well, I was going to say 12 hours ago, yet you had hope that maybe there'd be a comeback, but not 12 hours ago.
12 hours ago, actually, the game indeed was over.
Yeah, that's right.
I think we're about 13 hours removed from when the game
actually
effectively ended.
Exactly.
I was gonna ask you that, really, not right out of the gates, but kind of tiptoeing that line, right, where you simultaneously are so disgusted with what you saw last night, and rightfully so. A team limping to the finish line, 1-5 in their last 6 home playoff games.
How do you do that?
So how can you, and I saw it all over social last night. That's where we all kind of live and breathe as we're enduring these things, good or bad, together. And there was a lot, don't want to see good comments, don't want to see bad comments. This is the worst thing that's ever happened to us. Sell the team. Man, it was just such a fun ride, and we're happy to be here. Well, that's just Midwestern sensibilities taking over. Real fans want wins, want success, want results. It is kind of a balancing act, because last night should be as frustrating, irritating, and stomach churning as you feel it. Feel that. But then at some point, as we get through our inability to defend Luka, stars versus stars, our best 2, not up to the challenge, outclassed by their best 2.
Yep.
Bad times for certain role players, tough night for Nas and certain things. Rudy, I think, leading the team in attempt. Like, we can go down that line, but eventually, yes, you got to stiff arm it, but you have to embrace it, Charch. At some point today, you're going to sit there and go, you know what? I mean, last October, if somebody, first time in 20 years,
Right,
we're probably going to feel pretty good about it.
Going to feel pretty good.
And
it doesn't feel good right now at all.
No, we took a sledgehammer to the face at home in front of 19,000 faithful.
That stuff hurts, man. It chisels away at whatever that collective fandom is that we all have and that we all share together. When you're in an elimination game and you go down, I don't know, what they were down by 35?
I believe it was 36. 36. A popular, it was actually a common number last night. 36, I believe, was their largest deficit. And then Luka and Kyrie Irving both paired for 36 points apiece. 72 points.
Unbelievable.
Out of their big guns. So
the Timberwolves lost by 21, and it wasn't that close.
No.
It wasn't even as close as a 21-point game would suggest. Luka was otherworldly, and some of those shots, I mean, he made a 3 in the first from the logo.
Yeah.
Some of those were just Luka's insane. He's so good. And then also our guys just couldn't do enough to keep up. Our superstars and Cat couldn't do enough. Now, the game opened poorly. I don't understand why for most of the first quarter there was a deliberate decision to run the offense through Rudy Gobert.
Yeah.
I mean, and before you know it, by the end of the first quarter, the thing's already totally derailed. And for at least the first half of the first quarter, Rudy set an all-time personal record with 7 field goals in the first quarter, a playoff high for any quarter in his career.
Yeah, that's not supposed to happen.
He had that halfway through the first. And, of course, it didn't go very well.
You're missing the free throws.
He missed a bunch of shots, and then he's missing the free throws that he did get. Why would you set that up?
I don't know.
Why? What was the coaching staff thinking? Because it was very intentional that we're going to come out and we're going to run our offense through Rudy. They had a lot of success the prior game 4, the win, attacking the basket early in the game. And I loved it, and it worked. This time, but that wasn't with Rudy. That was mostly with Cat and Ant.
Yeah.
So why are you doing it with Rudy? I mean, of the things Rudy can bring to the table, that ain't it.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if that's the game plan or if it's in the flow of the possession. They're making that decision, whether it's Ant, whether it's Conley, that ultimately they're seeing something they want. As much as I love Rudy, he was losing physical battles with guys that are just not his size. And Gafford and Lively provided an element in this series that we just couldn't adjust from. But I liked the idea of getting inside Charch. I like the idea, and eventually, for the first time in the series, you had Daniel Gafford actually sweating fouls. You had Lively sweating fouls, but by then, of course, as we mentioned, it was completely out of the realm of possibility to come back in this. But yeah, that's speaking of that, whether that was intentional or not, we know that was awful. And when you're watching Rudy battle a guy 6 inches shorter from him, and he can't put that 2-footer in the hoop, and then Luka just strolls down there. He's got blood soaking through his knee brace and his socks and all that, and he rolls out there and just hits a 33, 34-foot triple. It's over. I mean, it was just I'm in awe of it. The ugliness of his game as it pertains to some of the fouls and the mannerisms and then the begging for all of those things. That part's ugly, but what Luka does is magic on that court, and we had no answer for it.
So Wolves end the first half, first quarter, a terrible quarter. They give up 35 points, which is awful. They score 19, which is awful. And they open the second quarter with Cat and Ant on the bench.
Yeah. That was
the game is hanging. The game's already hanging by a thread. And you open the second without your two best players on the court. You're coming off a 19-point quarter. And the players who score your best scores are on the bench.
Well, and that wasn't
understand that.
That wasn't just last night, Charch. That was many times throughout the series. It was several times throughout the playoffs, specifically in the Nuggets series. When they won those 3 in a row, you saw these massive runs from the first quarter into the second quarter. And that was back when we were talking about how Kyle Anderson should not see the court for the rest of the Nuggets series.
Well, he was awful in the Nuggets series.
Because Cat and Ant were on the bench at the same time. And you're playing the plus-minus game. When Ant's on the court, they're a +10. When Kyle Anderson's on the court, they're a -15, playing that kind of game. And I think we questioned some of those lineup decisions and who was being put on the court at certain times. That would be a consistent thing that is making me scratch my head. But Finch, man, throughout this entire series, it's amazing. It's amazing matchups where certain teams – the Wolves just can't lose to in some respects. But then, I'm going to use the Clippers as an example. If we played the Clippers in a series, that's a team that we just physically match up. The way we play matches up so well against them. We would dominate the Clippers. On the other end of it, I don't know how if you notice this, but I think it was pretty blatant. Every single shot that they took in this series, it felt like, was obvious. It was open. It was easy. And even the difficult ones by Luka and Kyrie happened to fall.
They went in.
They're otherworldly shooters. Yeah. On our end, even last night, battling through it, you mentioned all those attempts by Rudy. How about Karl having to bust through and take contact, whether he gets the foul or not? Every shot he was taking looked like he was climbing a mountain to do it. Anthony Edwards, he's 22. How much is he going to learn from certain aspects? When they double me, I got to do this. I got to get rid of the ball quicker, or I can make this move, make this decision. Every single shot Anthony took for the most part last night was difficult. So as good as this defense here with the Wolves has been over the totality, the long game of the season, I would say nobody made better moves down the stretch of the regular season to solidify themselves for a playoff run than what Dallas did at the trade deadline and how they organized that group. I would actually say defensively, that's a better team at this moment than the Wolves are.
And they just proved it.
And naturally,
right?
they proved it. So, Captain
Not
Obvious over here. But yeah, I think down the stretch of the season, huge run. I think they won like 19 of 20 or just some ridiculous run they were on.
Yeah, we talked about it going into the series. If you go back to, I believe it was March 7th, which is a long time ago now, March 7th. Normally I would say snow on the ground, but we didn't have any snow on the ground all winter. March 7th, in games Dallas was trying to win. So I'm throwing out the last 1 or 2 regular season games that were not material for Dallas.
Sure.
They had lost 5 games coming into the Wolves series. Now they've lost 6 games since March 7th. That's insane.
It is.
We're closing in on 3 months of basketball here.
Well, and the most impressive part of it is Luka is always going to be, as long as he's in his prime, top 2-3 scorer in the NBA. So that requires a lot of time on the ball, right? And that requires a lot of the team's attention towards facilitating that. You bring Kyrie in, doesn't really get off to a great start, but what you've seen are two very unselfish superstars to where you were mentioning Cat and Ann on the bench at the same time until it was late or until the blowout was on. You were never going to see Luka and Kyrie off the court at the same time.
No.
So you're tired of getting haymakers from Luka in the first quarter, like 22 points in the first? Well, check out Kyrie.
Right.
And now Kyrie's hitting threes, and he's driving and forcing action and getting to the hoop and making buckets.
But we're out there at one point, late second. The Wolves are down 26 with Kyle Anderson and Jordan McLaughlin on the floor.
Yeah, a little J-Mac. Didn't work out.
There were some rotation decisions that I found baffling, and and at this point, late second, I mean, this thing's spiraling away. Your win percentage is down to like 3%.
Yep.
And we've got ice. We've got J-Mac on the court. Mm-hmm. Ice cold, who's played only in blowout wins and losses, and he's on the court while we're trying to salvage a game. Brutal.
I don't.
By the way, did you catch the stat?
What's that?
Speaking of our bench, Wolves rolled into halftime 0 bench points.
Yeah, I think I saw by the end of the third they had 5.
Unbelievable.
I mean, and then in combination with your two top players not able to, I mean, to ask them nightly to match Luka and Kyrie is tough, which means there have to be other aspects of the game. And earlier in the series, it was Nas 7 and 9 from deep. At times, a couple of timely threes from Nickeil Alexander-Walker in the Game 4 win. You got to play that game of who else? Jaden McDaniels. Up and down earlier in the playoffs. Really kind of went on a little heater there.
He did offensively. Then last night, the 3 quick fouls.
Well, last night, yeah. And then by the time he got his 5th, it's like, well, should we take it? No, you're down by 25, so it really doesn't matter.
Right.
The tough thing about this, Charch, is we said we were going to just exercise demons from last night. I'm not done exercising demons from last night.
Apparently not.
No, the first segment's not. The first segment's not going to cut it. Maybe Greenway's got some opinions on it.
Chad Greenway joining us next. Minnesota sports now 0-9 in conference championship opportunities. The chances to go to a Super Bowl or a NBA Finals. And are the Wild in there? I'm trying to. The 6 of the Vikings.
Well, the Wild went to 03.
Yeah, 03. So then 1 Wild and 2 Wolves, right?
Yeah.
0-9 for Minnesota sports. Chad Greenway is part of one of them. The closest one out of the 9.
Yeah.
Chad Greenway was there for. We'll get his thoughts.
Sure,
when we
he'll
come
be
back.
excited
Friday
to talk about that.
Friday football feast continues.
And
We got real music back. Wait, does that mean I can play Turbo Tracks this summer during the Abyss?
I believe you can.
Yes.
So how it works?
Oh,
It's a fun game.
It's fun.
I love it.
So all of those listening to 9 to Noon live are hearing Flashlight by Parliament.
Right. Podcasters are hearing.
They're hearing a lot of dead air and us referencing
the music they don't hear.
by Parliament.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? That's still a win. We love our podcast listeners.
Yeah. Yep.
We adore you.
Absolutely.
But we want to be able to play something that isn't royalty-free music.
Yes.
We don't want to have to play music that has been around so long that it's aged out of their copyright.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
There's an entire cottage industry of musicians that will just play. They'll get as close to the line of plagiarizing and copying as they can, and they make a ton of cash selling it. Like we use a company, I think it's called like Alpha Libraries, and it's millions of songs that sound really, really close to those hits you love.
Well, you know why? You go to Fiverr as example.
Yep.
Fiverr lets you buy like one-off art or music or whatever, and it's all very inexpensive because the people you're working with are in Bangladesh or Sri Lanka, right? Yep. And so, when you're paying $30 for a logo, that $30 is really meaningful money for them. This is, if that musician goes right to the line on plagiarism, what are you going to do? I mean, what is Sony going to go track down this guy in Bangladesh?
Yeah, they will.
They will not.
Are you...
Sony is not going to track down the guy in Bangladesh.
Well, that's why we can't play music on our podcast.
Us here, we're the ones
because
that
they go after folks like
not
that.
Not that guy. That's the point I'm making. They'll come after us. They won't come after... You never sue the poor.
What about when AI just creates
Never sue the poor.
Can't sue AI.
That is a losing proposition.
Music companies in the days of Napster and all of that, they were more than happy to sue the poor. There was no doubt about that.
They want to
whether it was statement making or anything else.
LimeWire action.
They're going to get
LimeWire.
They're going to get that money.
It's going way back.
LimeWire, Kazaa,
man,
all those sites.
Napster's still going.
Really?
Napster's still a company.
Wow.
Yes. It's not what it was.
I thought it would have been bought and killed by now.
Yeah, you would think so, right? Yeah, absolutely. Hi, Chad.
Greenway.
Hi.
What's up?
How's it going? What's going on, guys? Other than the obvious.
I know. We're in recovery mode.
Yep.
It's, I think we had all accepted the fact that a week ago, the Wolves were not going to win this series. Really wanted this win because it was at home and we played so badly at home since the Sun series. And, going to 6 games, that's not a humiliating exit.
Agreed.
This really was.
Well, I think there's only one way this is humiliating exit is the way it went down. At the end of the day, you get that win. I think I was fired up for this game. I was like, let's go back to Dallas and take your shot. Who cares? Whoever happens then happens.
Right.
This is your shot. This is your shot to go extend this series, become a legitimate contender in the Western Conference Finals. Between just a red hot Mavs team, what they have going on right now is going to be. I'm not sure what the line is saying right now, but I like them in the series.
Yes,
betting line on this on the finals. Thank you.
I'll get there in a moment.
I like them against the Celtics, and I just have a hard time cheering for them because of Luka. But at the end of the day, like when I saw Game 1 and saw the way Kyrie was playing, I'm like, oh boy, he was. When you're watching a game of professionals, some of the best athletes in the world, NBA players. And you see a guy who is clearly a step faster than everybody else. Oof. And his finishing around the rim, his ability, it's unbelievable. And people watching, like, that's really hard. That's like what he's doing is impossible in a league that, he sets himself apart from a skill standpoint, right hand, left hand, his ability to finish. And you watch him in the size and what he's going up against, it's incredible. And Luka's shot making is just, it's so challenging. The most frustrating part for me, the whole series, was all about our offensive movement. I thought defensively, some of the stuff that we're doing with we should have blitzed and doubled, got the ball to the hands more often, made somebody else beat us a little bit more often. But reality was offensively, we just didn't move the ball. And it did not get easy looks. I think Nordal said it great in the first segment was every shot seemed labored. Every shot was hard. Every shot was challenged. Where they're getting bop, 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 move the ball. Luka drives, kicks, open 3 in the corner. And it also helps when your superstars are making shots. And they made shots the whole series.
So who's that on? I mean, is this Chris Finch because he's not setting the offense to react to that, not making whatever adjustments he needs to, not finding ways to clear guys open and set up easier looks?
I think it's a little bit of our personnel and how we were set up. And, we got really used to in that Denver series of Ant getting downhill like Luke was doing, finding corner shooters, and shooters were making shots. And we didn't shoot the ball as well in this series. Obviously, we were fatigued from that Denver series. I think it played a part of it. Ant certainly was fatigued from that series. He showed that, I think, throughout this series.
Without a doubt.
And, at the end of the day, we all said Western Conference Finals we'd all be very, very happy with. So I think when you look at this team and where we came from and where we got here, you just don't think it was the Mavs. I don't think any of us thought it was going to be the Mavericks in 5.
I'll say this: Pierre brought it when the regular season was ending.
I was
on
here
one
that
Friday.
Day. Yep.
We were talking about the matchups we didn't want, and PA said, "Smart people are whispering in his ear, you don't want Dallas. So
Yep.
PA did bring it up.
Yes, he did. I was here that day. He had a little foresight, or whoever was talking to him in his ear. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm fired up for this team and organization. The way we went out was super disappointing. Again, you guys already acknowledged this. The way we started the second quarter, when this game was completely in limbo, and you saw it at 18-18, they go on end up being a 20-plus point to one run.
Which 20-plus point run are you referring to?
Yeah. Well, the first one, because that changed. That was the game. When you feel that, when you're down 7-9, I didn't watch the first quarter because I was at a track meeting and I was listening on the radio as it was going from
Alan Horton right here on the fan.
Middle of first quarter to end of first quarter. And you're like, okay, we got to stop the bleeding. You got to make a shot. You got to get a stop. Weren't getting stops. Weren't making shots. And you're not visually seeing where the shots are coming from and all that. It was hard to acknowledge. But what I noticed was in the start of the second quarter, it's like, are we just throwing in the towel because you don't start that lineup in the second quarter?
Right, so
with
weird.
the mentality of we have to get this thing back to even quick,
fast,
or
right?
get under 10 by halftime for sure, or 2-10 by halftime, because what we did against the Nuggets to close that thing out it's impossible to recreate that down 16 and come back and win.
Right.
You just can't get a team that's going to, especially with the Mavericks, they were making too many shots all series. Nuggets win ice cold. And Mavericks weren't going to do that this series. Just they haven't shown it at all.
No, you've never dominated the Mavs like you did in long stretches against Denver, and so there was no reason to think that you were just going to claw your way out of a 26-point deficit.
Yep.
So I'm
How many dunks do we give up to Gafford?
Oh, God.
Unbelievable the amount of dunks, and I mean, just again,
we're supposed to be the big team, right?
But you look at the Joker,
the paint defending team.
Yes,
and
we
they
defended that.
smoked us in the paint.
We defended that so poorly, and to their credit, I mean, he goes up and gets it, and the guys find him, and everything just seemed to sort of go their way, including. We have to complain about the refereeing in this series. I have to, anyways. I was so frustrated watching this game, or this whole series, from live in Game 1 all the way to Game 5. I thought we got jobbed the whole series, in my opinion.
Well, it was funny. Finch coming out yesterday before the game, and then ultimately I think he was all over Mark Davis early, and then they called an illegal screen. He's been mentioning it all series, how Dallas will run illegal screens at all times, and they never get called for the offensive foul.
Now watch, they will in this next series.
Oh yeah, yep, 100%.
And by the way, getting back to what your question is on the line, they are minus 220. The Celtics are minus 220.
Really?
So you're getting plus 180, 185.
But here's the thing
right now.
Look at the path that these teams have had to take to get here.
Yep.
Boston's got one of the easiest paths in memory to get to the finals.
Western Conference was
challenged.
Western Conference was impossible this year. Yep,
yes.
Exactly. And that's why I think when you look back at the Wolves and how this season has gone and where we got to, you never want to, you always want to win a title. Every pro sports team, your goal is to win this championship, and everything else is just, it is what it is. But this team and the organization, it looks like, again, I don't understand the contracts in the NBA and where we're at and who's going to be back and all that, but it just seems like we're building something really special that is going to be sustainable. And I think that's the one thing during my tenure with the Vikings, we never got to that sustainability where you're just going to be guaranteed that, hey, this is a playoff team next year. This is a playoff team the year after that. Like that sustainability.
Well, it's because you never
success.
had a franchise quarterback.
When you don't have that.
The only way you get sustained greatness in the NFL is when you have a franchise quarterback.
Yep.
And you never
great
had
leadership, great coach, great quarterback. If you have those three things, you have a chance.
But I think what we learned as well is that because, in the day, like looking at the big three, right? Going back to LeBron's decision to go to Miami and then how things have kind of evolved. Looking at Steph and Clay and at one point Draymond, I don't know who you would put that third person, probably Draymond in the prime days of the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
He was conspicuously gone from the broadcast last night. But at any rate,
he should never be on that broadcast ever again.
It feels like now
super weird.
Such a hater.
Totally conflicted. And he's such a grade A ass.
He's just not likable at all. He's
how punitive.
Of all people to be on there.
Him?
Yeah, super bitter, super petty, the whole thing. But now it's kind of like you got your pairs. You have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in Boston, Luka and Kyrie. Mm-hmm. And here we've
got our pair.
Booker and Durant. Well, do we?
I think we do.
But that's I would actually say walking away from this series that it was kind of a question throughout this, and he's gone through a significantly positive maturation process. Karl Anthony Towns.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. He's not in the class. He is not the number two. And Anthony at 22 learned a lot from this series, and he will be the number one. The Wolves, I do not believe, have a number two. I think that's part of that learning process. We could not hang with Kyrie and Luka at any point this series.
10 days ago, before the start of this series, we were saying Cat may have been the best player on the floor in the Denver series.
He's the reason that they got to the Western Conference Finals.
So,
absolutely.
Did he have a good series against Dallas? No.
Specifically in Game 7, I don't believe that Karl was the best player for the Wolves in the Nuggets series. I mean, we're talking a combination of defense. If you add in his defense,
I think if you add in his defense, I think Cat, you could make that case.
It was arguable. I mean, he was in the mix.
He had a really good series.
Yep.
He had a really good series.
Requisite of his salary and his esteem. I mean, that was a good series.
I'm not, and that's where. So I'm not trying to drag Cat here. My point is ultimately, if you're looking at pairs, and we're talking a completely different class. I'm not saying that we can't win a lot of games and be a contender in the West with Anthony and Karl. But who did we just see? Who were we talking about on the other end, the favorites to win this thing, as easy as their route was through the playoffs, as the Boston Celtics enjoyed? Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Luka and Kyrie, that is 5-10 steps ahead of the 22-year-old who's going to grow into one of those guys, and Karl, who's had his ups and downs.
But I think what you have to acknowledge when you talk about that is how basketball is a matchup game, 1,000%. You talked about this a little bit in the first segment. Reality is having Cat as our quote-unquote number two in that Denver series and having the length and size to go combat the Joker, I mean, that was a huge advantage for us. Now you go in this series and it was a disadvantage because they're superstars or our guards and wings, right? And now we have a 7-footer. Yeah. And I thought, to be honest with you, the Timberwolves showed their hand on how they value Cat because of this series. I mean, his play time was limited. I mean, they didn't use him. They didn't run offense through him at all. And I think it shows you maybe where their head's going, or again, was that just because of matchups and opportunities? So be very curious to see how it goes. I thought they overplayed Rudy because we weren't getting it done.
Agree.
We weren't getting it done defensively. I liked going with Nas, Cat, and then the rest of the guys. You throw in Jaden, and obviously Ant. I thought that was our best lineup in this series and our best chances. You didn't need to play these guys with Rudy because he wasn't effective. I think you got to acknowledge it.
And we never got to a point where...
I don't care how much we're paying him. It doesn't matter. In this series, it's not as effective as it was last series. And then he gets the most shots and touches in the first quarter, which is just an absolute L.
But a couple of texters have pointed this out, and I was trying to scramble to where, just Googling it and looking at some past audio we have to see if I could find it. But Finch, I believe, has explained in the past that he lets these guys play free. That we were talking about kind of systems, right? And there are specific things we could watch Jason Kidd doing to get those open looks, to even some ways mitigate double teams on Luka and or Kyrie. And Finch has talked about in the past, I believe, where it's kind of we let our shooters shoot their way out of problems. We let this thing kind of work its way into existence over the course of a game, which lends to the idea of Conley not finding the immediate option, so then now Rudy somehow has it inside and those sorts of things. Mm-hmm. Rudy was so good earlier in the playoffs, so it's tough to be too hard on him. But it almost felt like Finch was thinking, if I just keep Rudy in there against Lively and Gafford, at some point we're going to find the right mix and the right play and the right moment where he can defend some of this stuff at the hoop. Yep. And it just never worked. He was caught in purgatory half the time. Yep. Kyle Anderson, I think Anthony and Kat had their moments as well where I think maybe they made the wrong decision and help. But Rudy was just out there. I mean, he had no shot, and that was kind of disappointing.
It just seemed like the biggest difference was we ran out of gas and they didn't. And their stars, when they were in that moment, they played heavy minutes and a heavy load all series, and they did the series before. But their shot making ability was absolutely unbelievable. And it's at the end of the day, the one thing you can't defend, right, is a team that can just make shots and create shots and finish shots, and then of course go to the free throw line a million times because the refs call every contact possible in the lane on Luka.
Yeah.
Boo. Minnesota entered the series tired, emotionally tired, physically tired. The 7-game series took way more of a toll than I think we realized. Because we saw the Nuggets run out of gas. I think the Wolves were on empty as well.
Yep.
They just didn't quite run out of gas. They had like
push
2
was in
drops
Dallas.
left.
Last push was in Dallas. He came home and thinking, okay.
But they entered this series run out of gas.
Yep.
You know, they got beaten in game 1 in no small part because they came out tired. Had the Wolves just not gone 7, if they'd have just won, one of those earlier games, if they had had a couple more days of rest, I think this would have been a really different series.
Do you think it's emotional or physical tire? Because
I think it's more physical.
After Game 7, it looked to me, it was almost like Minneapolis Miracle style, where it's like, Cat and Ant on the microphone.
Yeah,
we love that free show when it's going well. But both those guys were talking as if they were advancing to the NBA Finals.
Yep.
That's the way the conversation was going. And I'm just curious, maybe emotionally, if they were out of it almost more so than the physical. Ant's 22, man. Remember being 22, Greenway?
Oh Lord,
how good were those days?
Oh, that what he's doing is this at another level right now at 22 years old, and he the upside's incredible. And I think what you see though is you see a team. We're talking about the Wolves guys, Western Conference Finals, and this thing came together pretty quickly because of the maturation of Ant and because of Cat understanding his role and going to identify that, building the team. Forget the guy, Connolly, who built this team.
Yeah, Tim Connolly.
Yeah, Tim Connolly, yeah.
You got to give him a lot of credit for what he's put together and where this is going to go. And I think sustainable success is what you always strive for in professional sports. And to me, right now, we have the makings of a potential, long-term successor here if we can keep everything together.
All right, so on that note, let's take a break, come back. Let's talk about the future of Cat. Right, there's going to be talk. There's going to be people, and there are people listening right now that are going to have a trade Cat mandate this offseason. It seems like it's every offseason. I think there's a lot to be said about the continuity of keeping Cat here. We'll talk that through when we come back. Friday Football Feed. Listen to this.
Yeah.
Royalty to music. Oh, I love it. Chad Greenway, Minnesota sports. Minnesota's men's sports. Let me be clear. We have a new women's hockey championship.
Yes.
The Big Four men's sports. Now a combined 0-9 in championship games since the last time we went to a championship game. You were on the field for the one that came closest.
Yeah.
You went to overtime, for Pete's sake.
Yep.
What are you carrying? First, are you carrying any baggage about not getting there?
Well, first of all, thank you, ladies, for holding up the stadium.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies.
Appreciate that. The ladies can get it done. Where the men cannot.
Do I carry any baggage? For sure. Because that if you could have brought a Super Bowl championship to this city and state and organization, what that would have meant for everybody, including selfishly yourself, and just being a Super Bowl champion for the rest of your life.
Right.
Something nobody can take from you.
Even a Super Bowl loser is different, right? It puts a whole different perspective on your career.
Yeah, and you just look back at that game and the decisions, the one-off, every decision is magnified times 100.
It is.
And whether it's Brett's decision, whether it's the rule change in the NFL hadn't happened yet with overtime. After that game, it had changed. Some calls that should have been made or shouldn't have been made. I mean,
how about they cheated?
Yeah,
and
cheated.
That's not bitterness. That's fact.
That's fact.
I mean,
the reality is
they got fined. Coaches didn't play for a year.
But that's just bitterness. Yeah, that's baggage. We're all carrying. I think we're all carrying, and that's why we love the Minneapolis Miracle so much, because we get to
what's
do it
cool
right back
about
to
it
them.
though is that Sean Payton got to coach his kids' football team, and I think Netflix even made a movie about it.
How does he even makes a movie about that too?
He's so unlikable. Why do people keep putting him in positions to like where we're supposed to like him? Whether it's when he was not coaching and he's on the pregame shows.
I'm out.
Who wants to watch that?
I'm out on anything he's doing.
I'm with you on that.
But did he?
Awful.
I mean, first of all, was he involved in some drug ring down there too, like with prescription meds and plus the?
I'd like to believe. I don't know.
I'm just going to irresponsibly. I'm going to irresponsibly just say
jackass.
Yeah,
let's just
there
go
was
with
something
that.
with some sort of pharmaceutical. Yeah, I mean, it's just.
Well,
nuts.
he was the OC for the Giants in 41 Donut. So you want to talk about 0-9 in conference title games? Just He was listening in on our headsets.
I don't like his face.
No, the cut of his jib is not appealing.
There's nothing to like about him.
No, very punchable face.
I tweeted this last night, and I wasn't the only one. There were several others. Last night's Wolves game felt like the 41 donut. This was your chance. It's a knockout game. This was your chance to come up big, and you couldn't have crapped the bed bigger than what we just did.
And sitting on a time bomb with those fans because they just wanted something to cheer for. Right? I mean, you watched the game.
They tried.
And they tried. And the fans were there, and they showed up.
God bless the people that stayed to the end, cheering through the whole thing. We're cheering Luka Garza baskets at the end of the game.
Yep.
Like
although we should be, because Luka's awesome. Go Hawks.
He should get more time, honestly.
Yeah, just too slow.
Well, I love NBA people that started tweeting out last night, like, Luka Garza points in conference final series 5, Joel Embiid 0.
You do love that.
I do love that. How are you going to do Snoop like that, though? Snoop sitting courtside.
I know. And this is what you do for Snoop.
You put on for Snoop. I mean, I don't care.
How about, did it bother you guys that KG didn't show?
Yes. Game 1, he should have been walking out to center court to fire up. I put that loss on KG. 1,000%.
Yeah, but who plays for KG? The crowd or the players?
The players wouldn't have cared. The energy in the building would have mattered, though, because the energy was hot in Game 1, being there, but it could have used a little boost.
I don't know. I'm just I don't know whose side to take in this. I feel
look for somebody to blame, Nordo. We blame KG.
Well, I'm gonna blame Glenn. I'm gonna blame Glenn.
Yeah,
because I remember going into the series, there was the podcast that he did with Stephen A, and I've referenced it a couple of times. But hey, you gonna go see a game? And he's like, I got to see a game in Minnesota. I got to see one in Boston. So everyone takes that clip and they're running with it. KG's coming. He's gonna be a target center. It's gonna be unbelievable. But then they don't listen to the next 30 seconds of, but I am a father. I am a business owner. Mm-hmm. It's tough for me to get away from the house. He was never coming to Target Center. But then Kendrick Perkins revives this whole thing on SportsCenter a couple of days ago. I'm hearing KG's going to be there.
Right.
It sounded like in the end it was either Mark Rosen would have had to give up his seat for KG.
That's not happening.
And he was just unwilling to do so because he likes sitting next to A-Rod.
How do you feel about Kendrick Perkins, by the way, on TV?
I kind of like him.
I enjoy him.
I like him.
Yeah, he shoots it straight.
He's our only cheerleader at some points.
He was. He was on the Wolves earlier this year than really anybody else was, which I liked. I didn't love the fact that he basically he wanted to turn in his voting card because he voted Rudy for Defensive Player of the Year and has decided that was such a bad vote that he never deserves to vote again, which is pretty funny. Kat, let's go back to Kat. We went into the break on this. There are people, I know there are people listening that think we need to move Kat. Mm-hmm. I am not really of that ilk because I thought I saw enough change in Kat this year. Kat needed to be a number 2, not a number 1. I think Kat is most comfortable, and he looks best when Anthony Edwards is this team's number 1. And he had enough progression, offensively, defensively, maturity, not whining about every call. We're down to like 1 in every 4.
That's still a work in progress.
But it's better, right? I mean, I just think
it works for Luka.
Kat. I feel like
works
Kat
against
has gotten
Kat
a lot
so
better.
much. I mean, Kat does not get a call, and I give him credit for that. But he whines about everything, and it truly shows up in a negative way against how they referee him.
I think it does. And you mentioned it last segment, like Luka getting to the rim. Kyrie did it a ton too, where they're getting that contact, they're getting the foul. And even Anthony, who knows what the trajectory ultimately looks like in terms of his ceiling. But how many times this series did he end up on his back getting bumped hard?
A lot.
Makes or misses the basket, but not getting the call.
There was a good example in Game 4. We end up winning, so you let it go. Gafford blocks Kat on like a right-handed layup, kind of extended, and Kat is on the ground because Gafford, if you watch, they even replayed it, like, look how great this block was. Meanwhile, his entire body is smashing into Kat, but yes, he blocked the shot. Next trip down, Luka gets a ticky-tacky at the rim, and I'm like, I can't watch this.
Yeah.
It's not the same game. Like, you can't go down here and get that and then go down here on the other end. It's like we're we're not playing the same game here. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I think it means more too, because this is not a new thing, but we're actually on the receiving end of it, right? I mean, you watch the NBA playoffs year after year, and it's the same conversation. These guys get calls, these guys don't. Talking about flop rules in place and superstardom and all of this. But it's the first time in a long time Wolves fans are sitting there sweating every play and actually having to endure the Tony Brothers and the Ed Malloys of the world and the Scott Foster, who actually the extender played
helped us.
Yes,
he helped
did.
us.
Yep.
The extender did what he does.
Yep.
But being on the receiving end of that, it just hurts a little bit more. It's a little more glaring, and the offensive foul that was called a defensive foul in Game 4, Cat's sixth, where he fouls out when Luka launches himself into Cat. Just moments like that. We were never leaving games or leaving moments going, they're on our side on this one.
Remember the giant push in the back from Gafford on that long pass from Luka?
Yeah.
I think Game 2 pushed Conley down or somebody. I'm like, and they're showing the highlight of the finish. I'm like, it's a turnover and it's our ball going our way.
Yeah.
If he doesn't two-hand shove him in the back, they're calling that in every sport that's ever been played. And you can't even do that in football, for the love of Pete. Like, you can't do it in soccer. It's like, great play. Congratulations. That's illegal.
By the way, do want to give a shout out to Derek Lively. I know it's not in vogue to celebrate the other team.
He was great.
But Derek Lively, are you kidding me?
Yep.
Perfect from the floor. I think 16 straight shots, which is like an NBA playoff record. Over the course of the
Jim
series.
Brewer he took the record from Jim Brewer?
I think he took it from Jim Brewer. They took everything from us.
Right. They did.
But the thing is, man, I mean, he's just a kid, just a rookie. He's learning how to be big where Luka and Kyrie can trust him on a nightly basis.
He's going to be a problem.
He's getting kneed in no man's land by Cat. He's getting a concussion that they call a neck sprain from Cat. And then he's finally back after Game 4, and Nas just completely tree trunks him with his arm, and he's back on the ground. I mean, Derek Lively, just bless you and take these days to recover, man.
Yeah, their bigs killed us.
They did.
It was a different type of
We
athlete.
should have had the best
impressive
bigs on the court, and we didn't.
So, back to your original point, though,
Except
about
the game
Cat.
Lively missed.
So, if Cat's out, you bringing somebody in, or is Nas moving?
You have to bring somebody in.
Does Nas move in the starting lineup?
The problem, you're number one defense, but they rolled into the playoffs as like the 17th highest scoring offense. If you're going to take Cat off, you got to replace the scoring.
Correct.
You have a massive scoring deficit, so you're going to have to find somebody that can get you 25 a night.
Yeah, Nas Reed in this series, though. I mean,
we love Nas, but this was a very inconsistent series.
Very just up and down. He played a huge stretch yesterday where you needed him to go and give you energy, and he's had nothing.
The thing with Cat, though, to look at is guys like the Daniel Gaffords of the world have historically really frustrated Cat and made his life hell. It's the second team center. It's the physical guys. It's the JaVale McGee types who kind of beat on him a little bit. And and I've said it a couple times this series, the 7-footer plays like he's 6'2" once in a while, where he's not able to muscle his way inside and even get to the hoop. He's settling for 5 or 6 foot shots, begging for contact and those things and those fouls and not getting the calls and all of that, where that's something you have to think about when we're saying we should have had the best big guys. Technically, we have the most talented ones, but physically, Gafford and Lively were so much better than our group.
Just bring in Bronny. We'll get LeBron. We'll go LeBron and Cat.
There you go.
I mean, it's simple, guys.
Man,
fixed.
Do not want.
Yeah, but then you're going to get LeBron.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a problem.
LeBron and Ant.
Right. Not at this stage. I don't want LeBron.
No.
All right. Last thing for you, Chad. Was this Timberwolves season a success?
Yes. 100%. I was asked this before the playoffs started. Like, if we can make the Western Conference Finals, like, what a massive step.
Yep.
And to go and beat the Nuggets the way we did in Game 7 and show that character. I mean, it clearly ended up deciding the end of our season because this, like we talked about, we ran out of gas. But I determined this as a success. Now, the reality is as a fan, the only true success is a championship, right? But it does show growth and a step to say, okay, can we be in this position? Because being a champion is impossible. It's hard. Can we be in this position every year to have a shot? And if things can go your way, if you get one piece here, like you feel like you're just a piece or two away from being in this position all the time. And again, it'd be interesting to see what happens with this draft because on paper, this draft is not very good. But who knows? Who knows you can pull? Who knows when the trade happens? We'll see where it goes. But
and what's different about this team than the last Western Conference Finals team 20 years ago? they were rolling back old guys.
Yep.
Sprewell, Cassell, right? We're rolling back with a 23-year-old Anthony Edwards. And while Cat will be in his 10th year, he is still basically in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the only free agents that we're slated to lose, we're going to lose Kyle Anderson, Monty Morris, Jordan McLaughlin, you know. So, those are replaceable parts.
Yep.
No offense to those guys. Those are replaceable parts. The core of this team is young and intact, other than like Mike Conley, who will come back again. But that gives me a lot more optimism looking into next year. And I believe by the time we roll into it's next October, we're rolling into the next season. I think we're gonna feel pretty damn good about where this team is and the prospects it's got for the coming season.
Well, the expectation's been set, right, Chad? Like you're talking about it. This is an awful limping thud to end this series, but now this has to be a standard that they are contenders in the West. And whether that big two of Cat and Ant truly can rise to the level that they need to, we'll find out. I think they're a little more financially murky than you're letting on, Charch, but I also don't understand the cap situation in the NBA enough to really judge it. But in the end, you're right. For the most part, that group can stay static, and what they do around it with, I believe, a late first round pick. Let's what is it, 28th, 27th, somewhere in that area? And so,
it was a great year. I loved watching.
This was so much fun.
I haven't watched this NBA in a long time.
Yep.
Fun to watch. Let's do it again next year.
How about the city of Wolves fans, Chad? I mean, the Vikings fans faithful get up. It's all of that. But for 20 years, as bad as his team's been at spots, and we're the state of hockey and everything.
Not spots.
And hockey.
Decade-long stretches.
But we're a state of hockey. Everyone's partying on West 7th and Kellogg and all of that, rooting for the hockey team and everything. And it's like the Wolves are there. They're playing games too. How about the city coming alive during this postseason, man? The Wolves fans are there. They've been begging for it. A lot of loyalty to a team that hasn't offered them a lot in return over the last 20 years. Mm-hmm. And they were ready.
I live in the hoops world, pretty much daily. And this state is crazy about their hoops, whether it's youth all the way up to pro. So, we just need something to cheer for.
Hell yeah.
Well, it is quietly a great hoops town.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Big time.
We almost got contracted at one point.
Yeah.
And, God bless Glenn Taylor for saving us from that. But I think we've done our part as a fan base to support this team through thick and thin. We deserve better. And let's hope it's going to result in the championship because we've earned it. Thank you, Chad.
Absolutely.
Great to see you.
Come
Anything
check me
good
out.
for Grade Out?
Yes,
what's going on?
Come check me out. I'll be at the Total Wine in Maple Grove tonight, 5 to 6 p.m. Sign the bottles. We have a new label out, new bottle design.
Oh.
We're using local artists.
Oh, I like it. Not me.
Yeah, no, not you. No,
Do you like
we didn't ask
figures?
you. We got some cool new bottles.
Does Grey Duck have the value size? Can I get like a 5 liter?
Yeah, no, we have not gone with the 5-gallon bucket.
Right.
We might need that after last night's game.
I'm not your marketing guy. I'm not, but I'm just throwing that out there.
But if you on site, you can also enter a chance to win a signed Royce Lewis jersey because the Twins are playing, by the way. So let's go.
All right, there you go. You'll be not right by my house, but you could just swing by
pop
before
in.
or after. Yeah,
you pop in. See, you come to Total Wine Maple Grove.
Why do I have to go to
5
you?
to
Why
6.
can't you come to me?
Yeah, because you want to come see me.
I'm seeing you right now.
Yeah, I know, but you can see me two times in a day.
In one day?
Yeah,
that's
special.
That's one and a half.
It's always
too
better
many.
the second time.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Chad Greenway. We've got Dave Sinekin in the 11 o'clock hour. We'll take a quick diversion from the Wolves. Vikes Bites coming up next.